Welcome to another episode of the Nearshore Cafe podcast. I'm your host, Brian Samson. Before we get into this episode, let me thank our sponsor, Plugg Technologies, plugg.tech. Great way to connect Latin America talent with growing U.S. companies. If you want to know what's trending right now in the world of staffing, Latin America staffing, nearshoring, AI, H-1B visas, this is going to be a great episode for you. We've got Evan Greenberg, also with our sponsor company, Plugg. Evan is the Director of Client Solutions. Evan, great to see you again. This is your second time on the show.
It is. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Well, you're in it. You're talking to customers all day, prospects all day. You're reading, you're right on the front lines. Tell us about 2025. If you could kind of sum up, we're almost 10 months through the year, kind of sum up like what did the staffing industry feel like this year? And then I'll also get into later what you see coming down the road. But let's just kind of look at the past for a minute. The last 10 months, how would you summarize that?
Yeah, sure. So definitely feel like there's a huge shift to Latin America. Again, we hear it every day, every week in terms of companies really being attracted to the talent pool, attracted to time zone overlap. Um, Companies really want people that are going to stay longer. Uh, really attracted to the idea that in Latin America, I feel like people are a little bit more loyal, and that's definitely a big thing. I would say there's a huge shift from companies kind of going from India to Latin America as well for all different types of jobs, but definitely kind of see that as well.
Yeah, I see that too. See, there's two things that I wanted to hit on a little more. You talked about the loyalty factor, and I agree. Tenure seems to be a lot quicker in the US. You know, we're only a few years removed from quiet quitting. Employees are constantly looking for new things. Also, unemployment rate is still relatively low in the US. That means that recruiters are constantly working hard, to poach talent. Tell me more about loyalty in Latin America. Like what contributes to that? Why is the talent a little bit more loyal than they might be in the States?
Sure. Again, from my conversations and my experience, it just seems like people are a little more dedicated, super hardworking. Again, we recruit across many different countries, mostly Mexico, Brazil. But yeah, just seeing a lot of people kind of just being more loyal than I would say US talent, and maybe other places as well. I would say one other thing in terms of kind of trends this year, and maybe I'm kind of getting ahead, but I'll mention it. Kind of the whole like build, operate, transfer model.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of companies are wanting to secure like office space in certain countries, but they don't want to handle compliance, payroll,
Mm-hmm.
and tech setup. That's becoming more popular. A lot of companies, may, have a huge operation, but they might want an office or something to have an entity and kind of scale up. And that's actually kind of a new offering for us just because we've seen a lot of interest in that area.
Yeah, do you see, the optionality, I think of that is really key for companies. Do you see that as more of a larger company request, or are small startups looking at that as well?
Yeah, I think it can be both. We definitely see a lot of for larger companies, they may already have an entity
Hmm.
or they might have multiple offices in Latin America or in a country. For that small medium, they may only have operated in the US, maybe UK, and they want to build out their infrastructure and people in Mexico, for instance. So it might make more sense for them. Obviously, firms, bigger companies might have multiple offices in one country. So like I said, they might be more down the path.
Yeah, for sure. And then, we also talked about, we've talked about loyalty. We've talked about kind of this trend towards nearshoring. Let's dig into that a little bit more. Are you seeing certain countries that are like more popular than others that are being requested, and kind of why? Why is that happening?
Yeah, well, not for some reason, but for a good reason.
Yeah.
I've played Mexico and Brazil recently. I feel Brazil, I'm going to touch on this a little later, but from Brazil's perspective, 7 million people speaking English, 150 million internet users, I think more than 16,000 startups, obviously they're, on a great path to being, a tech powerhouse if they're not already, right? A lot of roles in Brazil are being, kind of data, cloud, AI driven. So I think a lot of that comes from education system. I would say, I'll say one more thing would be the fact that companies are definitely kind of looking beyond, let's just say, India and certain places in Asia, and Brazil also being in a similar time zone to East Coast, um, and just the whole U.S. Makes it really attractive.
Yeah, yeah. How about for Mexico?
Yeah, I think for Mexico, similar. Obviously, Mexico City, 25 million people, a really good education system, a really good university in Monterrey as well. Definitely makes for kind of that near shore kind of hub. Even in other places in Mexico, seeing a lot of talent in Guadalajara, even in the Yucatan, in Merida, good talent as well. So yeah, I think we're also seeing that.
Yeah, I wanted to also dive a little bit into something that I think is on the minds of a lot of people. As the Trump administration is revising the H-1B posting fee, which is essentially what it is, $3,000 in the past, jumping enormous to $100,000 H-1B posting fee. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean for staffing companies? What does that mean for India? What does that mean for Nearshore? Would love to get your take.
Yeah, no, I think it changes the game for US companies to look elsewhere, right? Where traditionally maybe they're in India, other countries. I think it definitely opens the floodgates for Latin America because, you can access talent much quicker, lower cost, same kind of cultural alignment
Hmm.
and time zone, which I already mentioned. And I think it'll continue to kind of be a big thing, especially in the AI kind of data front, where companies, with the boom of AI, it's just creating more data roles, data engineer, cloud engineer type roles. So I definitely feel like that's going to become more prevalent.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about the conversations you're having with hiring managers. First off, kind of set the stage for us. Are you talking to startups? Are you talking to big companies? Are you talking to engineering leaders, other roles? Kind of set the scene a little bit for us. And then tell us what's on their mind. What are they thinking about right now?
Sure. So yeah, I would say it's a mixture of small to medium, some enterprise as well. But yeah, I would say mostly small and mid market. Yeah, for us, a lot of things that I'm hearing are frustrations with when it comes to vetting taking too long, high turnover, project delays, things of that nature.
Hmm.
Even in several cases, I heard a head of engineering mention that he had a quota on hiring. So again, when you think about that, personal impact, it definitely kind of changes the game. So yeah, I mostly speak to CIOs, CTOs, head of engineering types when it comes to software engineering jobs.
Yeah, tell us more. Like, what are they worried about? What are they excited about?
Sure. Yeah, I think the biggest worry is, I would say, wasted time, almost. Yeah, well, wasted time in terms of taking away their time from technical projects
Mhm.
and kind of critical thinking about the business, and having to spend, man hours on recruiting. It's not something that maybe a head of engineering wants to spend 10 hours a week doing.
Mhm.
So I definitely hear that a lot. I would say in many cases, companies want kind of the ability to like plug and play. So they want someone that can come in that stays, that's loyal, but that can also mesh with their team. So I definitely have seen that as well. I would say another one, and we kind of already talked about it, but a lot of people are getting frustrated with time zone issues with South Asia. And I keep mentioning it because it's probably one of the number one things I hear. I probably hear it once a week, right? So from a project standpoint, you're missing out on hours and hours and hours because of misaligned time, and that's definitely a frustration. I would say another one is not bad resumes, but resumes that also waste hiring managers' time.
Yeah.
So um, I've seen that be a big one where, again, head of engineering doesn't want to spend X hours combing resumes and then figuring out that even in some cases, like fake resumes. And so having an extra layer to kind of sift through the resumes, mm, save them a lot of time is definitely something that I hear a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize this trend. Tell us more about the fake resumes. Is this because of AI or like what's going on with this?
I think so. I mean, honestly, a client complained to me a couple weeks ago about it. And they pretty much said that, people are, even if they don't live in the US, they might say they do.
Mm,
So it's wasting time. And then there's all sorts of, job scams and whatnot. So again, using a staff log partner like us, we kind of sift through that, just make it seamless for a hiring manager to bring on talent.
yeah. And I think often companies don't calculate the cost of their hiring manager's time very, very, correctly. Um, they might just look at it like the true hourly rate. Like their hiring manager makes $150,000 a year, so it's $75 an hour. But the opportunity cost of that hiring manager directing the team, moving roadblocks, creating a vision, QAing, dealing with executives. I mean, this is really like $1,000 an hour type work, right? That they're being pulled away from by dealing with fake resumes and all this other stuff. How
Absolutely.
does how do you and the rest of the Plug team um, vet out some of the fake resumes, fake candidates to save that $1,000 an hour time?
Yeah, I think it comes down to attention to detail, understanding the client's job description, having multiple conversations with us before they even kind of get to the client.
Yeah,
So I feel like that definitely, yeah, that definitely fills the gap.
yeah, yeah. Creates a much tighter conversion, right? Of
It
candidates
does.
that interview are much more aligned. So then it just becomes about culture and domain knowledge, not is this person in Sri Lanka really, but they're saying that they're in, Minnesota or Mexico.
Yep,
Right. Okay.
exactly. And
Okay.
then one other thing I didn't touch on earlier. One thing I hear a lot and seen a lot recently, um, with small to medium companies, even larger, is just the cost of an engineer in a major city in the U.S. Right?
Hmm.
I mean, on average, probably 150 to even 500
Right.
K a year.
Right.
In obviously in Latin America, it's much less.
Hmm.
But even beyond that, the overall talent in Latin America is super strong with big hubs like we already mentioned, kind of Mexico City,
Hmm.
or Argentina as well, and Brazil. So just wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. Well, I mean, you've had a nice success story um, in the recent months, bringing nearshore talent to a client. Tell us more about that. Kind of set the scene. What kind of industry were they in? What kind of size are they? What were they looking to fill, and what you did there?
Yeah, yeah, happy to share one. Of course, I'll keep the name confidential. Yeah, recently worked with a cloud focused tech firm out of the US, West Coast. They were kind of building out their engineering team. So full stack, front end, and principal engineer. Some things they were running into were kind of regional hiring blocks, I would say. So they were open to the idea of Nearshore. They were also exploring Europe as well, but ultimately decided with Nearshore. Couple things that kind of stood out for them. Again, they were frustrated with some previous outsourcing issues. Most of them kind of communication in time zone, I would say. I guess another thing was that, lost productivity of, waiting too long to hire somebody
Yeah.
was definitely affecting them. In terms of the value we brought, in terms of the value, I would say a kind of rapid turnaround. I mean, we quickly made them a team of 2 to 3 in, a matter of weeks, not months. Another thing that kind of stood out there, we kind of aligned a job description from the get-go. That was really nice to, not have any issues in terms of misalignment. Just kind of working together there. I would also say, again, some reasons kind of they picked us. Again, it came down to the ability to build a team quick, find really good talent. In this case, we found talent in Brazil. They're very cloud centric, like I mentioned. So they were looking for pretty specific kind of technical requirements. Again, with Plugg, we don't have a bench necessarily, so we go recruit for each role. I feel like that stood out because we found several excellent people. I'll say some other things that kind of stood out were just kind of listening to the client, right, for specific traits that they were looking for. Some things they were telling me were like someone that really shows initiative, being able to prioritize system design, other things like that, and just kind of throughout the process being able to find the right people for them and make them happy with that.
There's something that I wanted to dive deeper into what you just said, and that was they wanted engineers that showed the initiative. And I think maybe a common misnomer is, engineers in the US kind of have the sense of urgency, they're self-starters. Once they kind of build and architect the code base, then you throw it over the wall to people to like maintain it, right? And but maybe that's not correct. Companies are able to get self-starter, innovative engineers that can build things from Latin America. Tell us about that perception and, myth versus reality.
Yeah, I think in this case it was interesting because they actually ended up picking engineers that were, I would say, pretty young, right? But they were young, but they were self-starters, showed that initiative, serious about their work. And I feel like that was something that they really valued, right? So again, a lot of companies may have, 10 years on a JD, but um I feel like, in this case, they really knew what they were looking for and were open to, really good young talent.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, good. All right. Well, let's talk more about AI. It's on everybody's mind. It's not a new thing anymore. Companies are using it and they want to stay current or maybe even ahead. What are they doing to make sure they've got the resources, they've got the talent? And how does nearshoring play into this arms race for AI?
Yeah, no, I think it plays a major role. Everyone's probably seen the OpenAI investment recently in Argentina, the 25 billion. I think that will only kind of increase the awareness of AI and kind of data jobs kind of moving to Latin America. I also think with the boom of AI, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, it's leading to a lot of kind of new titles. So like prompt engineer, even there's all sorts of new titles kind of spinning off from AI.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, we see it every week in terms of, I need an AI engineer. I need a data engineer. We're also seeing, a lot of interest in, Databricks, Snowflake type roles as well. And that also comes from kind of the AI boom and just kind of more data, more eyes on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the AI boom, I definitely feel like it's obviously it does take a lot of jobs, but it also creates a lot of jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. As we talked about, Evan, you're a returning guest on the show. last time we really dug into, you're a world traveler. You've been to a lot of different places. Is there any place that we didn't get into last time you were here that you'd like to share more to the listeners and maybe drive some interest over there?
Yeah, there definitely is. So I don't think I touched on this last time. We did talk about several countries and cities and whatnot. I wanted to talk about Oaxaca actually. So I went to Oaxaca a couple years back before I had a baby, and it was kind of funny how we stumbled upon it. But we were supposed to go to Mexico City, and it was during COVID, and obviously everything shut down.
Right.
Well, the hotel that I was supposed to go to shut down and opened up in Oaxaca. So I had this credit that I had to use like in a 2-year time frame or something, right? But then I started doing more digging on Oaxaca, and I'm really into food, culture, fan of mezcal.
Yeah.
So we went to Oaxaca, right? We went to Oaxaca City. I just think it's a really underappreciated place. I think Oaxaca in general they speak like, I think they have 16 different like indigenous groups in Oaxaca, which is pretty interesting. I thought the food culture was amazing. When we landed, I mean, I almost felt like we were in like a huge, huge city, but it was really Oaxaca City and it wasn't that big. I almost felt like I was in like a Miami bar, but I was in Oaxaca City. So yeah, I definitely recommend Oaxaca for anyone thinking about travel, outside of Mexico City or Cancun. It's just a great place, really good coffee as well. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Well, hopefully that inspires some people, maybe myself, to go check it out. Any
I do
Yeah,
recommend it.
yeah, any final thoughts, notes that we didn't touch on in the show that you want our listeners to know before we wrap up?
I think we touched on a lot. I mean, again, there's a huge surge of business kind of moving to Latin America. I mean, I've seen it like in my family. My wife works at Lenovo, big computer company. They've had teams in Costa Rica for years, mostly on the sales side. But even HubSpot, they've had teams of customer success managers, salespeople in Colombia for a number of years as well. So I think it's no surprise that companies are moving to Latin America, and I do think we'll see more of that moving into next year.
Good stuff. Well, Evan, thanks so much for your time here on the show, summarizing trends, reviewing this 2025, looking ahead, some really great stuff. Thanks again to our sponsor, Plugg Technologies, plugg.tech. Great way to connect talent all over Latin America with U.S. companies. This is the Nearshore Cafe podcast. I'm Brian Samson. Thanks for listening.